need to film before we turn the AC on, and you can definitely hear the laundry in the background because it's quite loud. Definitely not ideal timing, but I don't really have a choice. I've just been editing all morning because I finally got to the reading vlog where it's the Mont Saint Michel trip, and I'm doing a few things different than what I normally do, trying a few things out. So it's just been taking a lot of time, and it's just like, crap, it's 80 degrees, we have to turn the AC on, but I still haven't filmed the intro for this yet. So I haven't read any Les Miserables yet because it's the dreaded Argot chapters, and like, I don't want to read that. Basically yesterday, Sunday, I had to think of what we even did because like today doesn't even feel like Monday. We went to a like lizard specialty shop, like where they have like reptiles, turtles and stuff, because Toma had to get some rocks for his Warhammer things, and he's actually painting right now. He has assembled some of the miniatures and was able to do like the base coat and stuff and some things he wanted with that, so that's exciting. And after that we went to a place called Hanami. It is on the terrace of the aquarium actually. It's supposed to have a view of the Eiffel Tower, but you really couldn't see it. And also the food was terrible. Like, this place pretty much either gets 1 star or 5 stars, so it was just like really up in the air what we were gonna get. And aesthetically, cool. It's fine, it's neat, but food, 0 out of 10, don't recommend. My pad thai was made with tomato sauce, so that was the most disgusting pad thai I've ever had. Also, pad thai is in Japanese, so that was really strange. And also all the cooks were Indian and not Japanese, even though I had heard that when it opened, all of the employees were Japanese, so I don't really know what happened there. Then we went to Smith & Son's bookshop. I think it has a different name now, but I don't really feel like looking it up. And that is where I got this beauty right here. And my camera is not going to do it justice, but like the red scales are like kind of shimmery, and like there's the spine and the back, and the lighting in here makes it look really yellow, a lot more yellow than it actually is, but it's sprayed gold edges. They don't look this bright yellow in person. It's like a really like muted gold. And then the inside, both the back and front cover, is like that. Oop, there went the bookmark. Do I already have a collection of H.P. Lovecraft stories in the US? Yes. But is it this gorgeous? Absolutely not. There are also stories in here that I have not heard of, so I definitely know that they don't have the same stories in them anyway. And if you remember, oh yeah, I can see it from here. The Gothic Tales of H.P. Lovecraft, which I think also has like tentacles and stuff on the front, but it's not in color. And I don't think there's any overlap just from a quick glance, but I'll have to double check on that. But saw this, absolutely had to get it, and I do not regret it one bit, but I am definitely a sucker for a beautiful cover, and this, even though my camera cannot do it justice, is just simply gorgeous. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that, get that out of the way, so my next clip I can just start fresh with the chapters I don't even want to read of Les Miserables. Have finished the 4 chapters on Argot. I read one of them yesterday and I just finished reading the other 3, so that was a lot. I found Victor Hugo kept repeating himself. Like, I think these are the most repetitive chapters I've read so far, and the last 2 chapters, like, I feel like my brain just wasn't comprehending any of it and I didn't understand what the hell it had to do with Argot. But there are a few little passages in the first chapter I want to read, which is definitely the most interesting one, I think, out of these 4, because it talks about how when Argot first started popping up in literature, how the general public was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't want to read this. This is garbage kind of thing. And he goes on to talk about how like each profession has their own jargon where someone like a regular person wouldn't understand what they're talking about. So why is Argot so different? This is literally in the last few pages of the book. Like, this starts on page 1214 and literally goes to the end. But right away in the beginning, It says, what is Argot? It is at once a nation and an idiom, robbery in its two aspects, the people and the language. And then he compares a lot of like professions and are like, oh, would this person not do this? And that's kind of like this paragraph I want to read here because I feel like it sums up the feeling of this language quite well, and this is just on the next page. It says, but since when has a horror been debarred from study? When has sickness driven the doctor away? Can one imagine a naturalist refusing to study a scorpion, a bat, or a tarantula on the grounds that these things are too ugly? The thinker who turns his back on Argot is like a surgeon who shrinks from a suppurating wound. He is a philologist reluctant to examine an aspect of language, a philosopher reluctant to scrutinize an aspect of humanity. For this must be said to those who are unaware of the fact. Argot is both a literary phenomenon and a social consequence. The proper definition of the word is this: it is the language of poverty. And I feel like that sums up these entire 4 chapters, because he pretty much goes into talking about how it's like the lowest of the low that uses this language and how it's just kind of transformed, and it's been like over 4 centuries that this language has existed, and it pretty much comes from these hopeless people stuck in these dungeons where the only thing they can do is sing. And it's talking about how like under Châtelet there is a pit that's like 8 feet underneath where like the Seine is, where the river is, so it's 8 feet underneath the river bottom, and how the floor is just like 10 inches of mud and there's chains coming off the walls. And this is where they would hold people before taking them to this other prison town, and they would be chained around their necks and their hands, and they would just be standing in this filth. It's talking about how they would sing, they would come up with rhymes, and this is where Argot would come from and like evolve from, were these like prison ditties and stuff. And then on page 1217 it says, Argot is nothing but a changing room where language, having some evil end in view, adopts a disguise, reclothing itself with masked words and tattered metaphors, a process which renders it horrible. And this is where it goes in talking about how it is just this amalgamation of all these different languages, Italian, Spanish, Greek, German, Latin, and then it definitely goes into depth being like, well, this is called this, which comes from this word in this language, and it gets like really a bit too much. And then finally, I'm just gonna read the last paragraph, because this is like, I don't even know what this has to do with Argot, but this is literally in the very last page of the book. It says, should we continue to look upwards? Is the light we can see in the sky one of those which will presently be extinguished? The ideal is terrifying to behold, lost as it is in the depths, small, isolated, a pinpoint, brilliant but threatened on all sides by the dark forces that surround it. Nevertheless, no more in danger than a star in the jaws of the clouds. That last sentence is very interesting, I think. But what does that have to do with Argot? I have no freaking clue. I think one of the points he was trying to make is that the safer the city becomes, the less Argot is used, and how the words change with the times and things like that. It was not the most fun thing to read about, that's for sure, but I'm glad that is finished so we can finally start book 8, which is called Enchantment and Despair. And so I'm not sure who exactly we're going to be following here, but that is where we'll be starting tomorrow. And as for today, tonight we actually are going to a movie. We're going to see Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is finally in France. This came out months ago in the US. It's finally here. I thought it was never gonna come out, like, oh my god. And today is like the, not pre-release, premiere. That's what it is, premiere, because it officially comes out tomorrow. We got these tickets like last week, and I just remembered last night about it. I was just like, oh shit. Because I'd been thinking, I was like, maybe I'll go to a movie on Wednesday or something. And then I was like, wait, no, we have a movie Tuesday night. So that's at 8 p.m. tonight, and I cannot wait. I so hope it lives up to the hype. I keep seeing the trailers every time we go to a movie here, and it looks really interesting. And after the disappointment that was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I need a good multiverse movie. So I am very, very much looking forward to that tonight. So I had hit record, but it actually didn't start recording, so most of what I'm about to say I've already said before. But anyway, we have the AC back on, so I'm here in the kitchen just so we don't have that noise. Torti is already here. It's actually her birthday tomorrow. But this clip is going to be in 2 reading vlogs, one the Les Mis one for another book that I'm currently reading. And basically I just don't want to have to say everything twice, but my phone said fuck you and it's making me say it twice anyway. So last night we saw the movie and it almost lives up to the hype because everyone is saying this is like 10 out of 10, which I rate them on a 5-star scale, just like I rate books. So for me it would be like 5 out of 5. But I think it's more of like a 4.5. And part of that might be because I'd watch it with French subtitles and there's a lot of Chinese spoken in here. And so there were some scenes where I just really couldn't follow what was being said. Can we not break things? And so I really want to rewatch it with English subtitles and see if there's some stuff I missed that maybe does bump it up to 5 stars for me. I don't know. There were some really unexpected scenes in this movie though that really caught me off guard. Would never expect those to be in there. But I think it's definitely worth seeing at the theater, and I'm so glad after having to wait all this time, we finally got to. This morning though was my ortho appointment. I haven't had one since like June, because July, August is when everyone goes on vacation here, so the place just wasn't open basically. Now have like the thickest wire on my top teeth, so that should have been the last time that I had to have the wire changed. So I'm hoping it's just a few more months of the braces and then they can come off, but we'll see what happens with that in the end. But I just finished reading 2 chapters in Les Miserables. We are now in that book 8. Pretty much just okay, hi Torti. Basically this is just all about Marius and Cosette making goo-goo eyes at each other. Like, it's really a bit ridiculous. Like, the first paragraph mentions like Romeo and Juliet, and it's just like, barf, like, can we get any more cheesy? But it's pretty much talking about how they talk about like everything and nothing. They talk about themselves a bit, like where they came from. They have only ever had that one first kiss. They haven't gone any further. They haven't even kissed again. Like, they barely even like touch hands. So it just references multiple times how they're just so virginal and pure and innocent kind of deal. Like, this is on page 845. Like, it even says, what did take place then between those two? Nothing. That about sums it up right there. And then Cosette does tell him that her real name is Euphrasia, or however you pronounce that, which I had completely forgotten about, but I do remember now that I believe Fantine told Jean Valjean about that, but I'm not 100%. But I mean, he must have, otherwise I don't think she would have remembered that. But Marius likes Cosette more anyway, so they're just gonna keep calling her Cosette. And there's one part in here where I am glad that I know some French, because it talks about how, like, this is in parentheses, it says, they addressed each other instinctively as two, neither knowing how this had come to pass. Which, if you know anything about French, there's tu and vous, which is how you say you, basically. And vous is the formal version, like that's how you would address like a boss or an elder. People like that, people you don't know. Where tu is the informal, it's the familiar way of speaking, and so that's reserved for just like family and friends. Like, you can offend someone by referring to them as tu instead of vous kind of thing, or even vice versa. So, like, if I didn't know that, this would have absolutely zero meaning to me. But this is just another way of showing just how, like, familiar they are with each other now. There is a really weird part in here. Like, this is how they talk to each other, and I think it's freaking weird. This is on page 847. It says, this is Marius speaking, I study your feet with a magnifying glass and your soul with a telescope. To which she replied, I love you more with every minute that passes. What the fuck, Marius? I don't know if this means he has a foot fetish or what, but like, they're just saying weird shit to each other, basically. And then the second chapter is pretty much just talking about how oblivious they are to the outside world. Like, literally, the first sentence is, thus, bathed in happiness, they lived untroubled by the world. They paid no heed to the epidemic of cholera, which during that month ravaged Paris. It's like, wow, okay, shit's happening. And they really don't care. And it's interesting because it instantly makes me think of COVID, and obviously, and how like some people really just didn't give a fuck and pretended like nothing was happening. That's kind of what they're doing, but they're just too absorbed in each other. They're not really doing anything else in the world at all besides just talking to each other in the garden in the evening, which I don't know how Jean Valjean doesn't know yet, but the first sentence of chapter 3 says, Jean Valjean suspected nothing. So he has like no inkling this is happening, which I feel like is very like off-brand for him actually, and a bit out of character. So I'm wondering if this next chapter is going to be where he kind of finds out and what's gonna happen with Marius when that happens. So we'll see how that goes tomorrow. What is today? It's Wednesday, I think. Tomorrow, September 1st. I want spooky season stuff. I want to decorate. I don't have the stuff. I don't have the resources. I don't like it. But there's really no other plans for today. I'm going to be reading more of a different book, and that's about it. I know we'll probably be doing stuff on the weekend, but I am not thinking that far ahead yet. And while I'm standing here filming, Torti is in the freaking drying dishes, just chilling, watching me, listening to me. She only comes in here and does this if someone is in here. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand you, Torti. Why you do this? Itchy girl. Oh, itchy face. I am so freaking tired today. Like, need to wake myself up. It's midday, and this is always the part of the day where I just want to freaking sleep. Like, ugh, I hate this feeling. Torti is here. It's also her birthday. It is Torti birthday. While I'm remembering, and she will not look at the camera apparently. Look, Torti. It's a birthday girl. But anyway. I am the only one home. It's just me and the animals, and I couldn't be happier. The husband is not home, and that rarely happens, and honestly for me, like, being around someone 24/7 is so fucking draining mentally that when he's gone, I will just like sit there and just enjoy the quiet, which right now I have freaking laundry going in the background, so it's probably not very quiet. So I ended up not reading anything yesterday. No Les Miserables, no H.P. Lovecraft, absolutely nothing, because I woke up feeling like I had a fever and I felt really dizzy. I felt slightly nauseous, and I just had this horrible brain fog, which brain fog for me feels like when you're underwater and you're reaching like for the surface and you can see kind of what's on the other side, but it's all like kind of blurry because you're underwater. And like when you break the surface and have that first breath and see everything clearly, like that feels good, right? But with brain fog, you're just constantly just under the surface, unable to come up. I hate that feeling. I feel like I'm trapped in my own head, and it is just the worst. I do not feel like myself, and I absolutely hate it. So just didn't do anything with that at all yesterday. I absolutely could not bring myself to. But since it's just me here right now, today, I have like 4 to 5 hours to myself, and Thomas' birthday is coming up. So one of the things on my to-do list right now is to order his birthday presents. He's gotten into Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, like the original Warhammer, again lately, and so there's a few things I need to check in his stuff because I'm getting him some Warhammer things. I want to get quite a bit of reading done actually, and then also I need to check a few things that he has mentioned for his birthday that he wants to do. Gonna be a busy time still. So depending on which reading vlog you are watching right now will be what book you see me talk about next. So I just finished my chapter of Les Miserables. I didn't read anything yesterday, but I did read a chapter the day before. And that chapter really wasn't much of anything. It was just talking about how Jean Valjean and the housekeeper Toussaint, they don't know anything, like they don't suspect anything. Cosette is just happy as can be, just kind of goes along with whatever Jean Valjean wants. So they're all good. But one night when Marius is walking to the garden, he runs into Eponine, and he had like forgotten all about her and almost didn't even recognize her at first. In fact, he didn't even remember her name at first either. So he is very, very single-minded in like his love for Cosette and everything. I think it's very obvious now that Eponine is in love with Marius, especially from what happens in the next chapter, because the next chapter is called The Watchdog, and I didn't know what that meant at first, but that is actually referring to Eponine, because the very next night she follows Marius and realizes he's going into this house in this garden and stuff, and she's like, oh, he must be going here like every single freaking night, because apparently everyone is a fucking stalker in this book, and she's been watching him walk down this road every single freaking night. And I don't understand why that's such a common theme here. Like, it's fucking bizarre to me. You can see Ori sleeping. Oh, cute boy. But anyway, so she follows him and she's sitting there because I think she wants to see him like kind of come out of the garden or whatever. But she sees her dad and his buddies roll up instead, and they're planning to break into the house, even though she had said before like it wasn't worth it. And she fucking comes out of the shadows out of nowhere and like tries to stop them, and they're just like, what the fuck? And I'm gonna read this because this is pretty fucking ridiculous. It's on page 854. It just shows how shitty Thénardier is. The man recoiled with the shock of the unexpected. He seemed to bristle, and nothing is more dismaying than the sight of a startled wild animal. Their very fright is frightening. He drew back, exclaiming, "Who the devil are you?" "Your daughter." The man was Thénardier. And so, like, this is only a few chapters of difference, and before, he completely didn't realize Gavroche was his son, and now he's not even realizing that this is Eponine, his daughter. And so she tries to manipulate them. Like, she puts her arms around his neck and is like, oh, Dad, it's been so long since I've seen you. Like, where's Mom? What's going on? He just says he doesn't know where the mom is, but that she's well, and so I'm assuming she's still in prison, because that's really the first mention of her since they've been arrested. I don't know if she's just kind of gonna be forgotten now for the rest of the book or what. It pretty much gets to the point where they're like threatening to kill her, and she's like, do you really think I'm scared? I don't give a fuck. But she's basically like, if you come toward me, like, I'll scream, like, I am the dog here. Basically, eventually, they just kind of give up because one of the people are like, hey, I saw some of these bad omens today, and this doesn't feel right. Let's just get the fuck out. So they finally leave, but like, one dude was like, hey, I'll distract her and you guys can go in, and if she screams or anything, I will stab her. And Thénardier was just down for that, so he is fucked up. But I also don't understand how Cosette and Marius could not hear what's going on, because they were right at the gate to the garden, and I don't know if I'm just misunderstanding how vast this land actually is. It doesn't seem like it should be huge, so it just seems a bit bizarre to me that they're not hearing this conversation happening. But also, I'm kind of scared to find out what's going to happen when Eponine realizes he's going to this house to see Cosette. I feel like it should be pretty obvious to her, but I don't know. But I do find it interesting, like, how hardcore she is trying to protect this house. And also, if Jean Valjean is there, how is he not realizing what is happening either? But the next chapter is called Things of the Night. So I'm not sure if we're gonna follow, like, Thénardier and his oh, okay, that's literally half a page long, so I think I'm just gonna read that right now, actually. Okay, that was just a bit weird. I'm gonna read the last bit of it. This is on page 859. It says, those brutish creatures, holy material, instinctively fight shy of the measureless obscurity contained in any unknown being. A dark figure barring the way stops a wild animal in its tracks. What emerges from the burial ground alarms and dismays that which emerges from the lair. The bloodthirsty fears the sinister. The wolf recoils from the ghoul. So this was just talking about like a jungle and wild animals and stuff, so that wasn't much of anything. So the next chapter sounds pretty stupid. It's Marius gives Cosette his address. So I wonder if she's gonna actually meet his friends now. That also answers the question of, we don't give a fuck about the Thénardiers apparently, because now we are back to them. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna stay with them for a while, so I hope Eponine comes back into the picture, because I really want to know how she handles his love for Marius, or his love for Cosette, I should say. And God, like, Marius just being so singularly focused on Cosette and like no other aspect of his life is just weird. That's not how love should be. You shouldn't forget the entirety of your life. So I'm hoping he gets better in that aspect, but I guess we'll see, and I'm assuming the answer is no. So yet again, I have forgotten what day it is, and yesterday I completely forgot it was Saturday, so I did not close out this vlog. So I'm just popping in here to say thank you for hanging out with me. It is always appreciated, and until next time, bonne journée and au revoir.